In 2023, Pamela Anderson walked onto a stage in front of thousands of people wearing no makeup at all. For a woman once known as the most photographed blonde bombshell on the planet, this was more than a beauty choice. It was a message. And it left people asking, what actually happened to the woman who defined an entire decade of pop culture? Long before the fame, Pamela was just a small town girl from Ladysmith, a little community on Vancouver Island in Canada. Her childhood was far from glamorous, money was tight, and home life had its share of struggles. Nobody around her could have guessed that this girl would soon become one of the most recognized faces in the world. Her big break came almost by accident. In 1989, she was shown on the Jumbotron at a football game in Vancouver, wearing a Labatt beer shirt. The crowd loved her energy, and it caught the attention of the company, who signed her as a model. That one moment on the screen opened the door to Los Angeles. Once she arrived in California, things moved fast. She landed a modeling deal with Playboy, and this is where her image truly exploded. Her natural charm and confidence made her stand out, and soon she wasn't just a model, she was becoming a household name. Then came the role that changed everything. In 1992, Pamela joined the cast of Baywatch. Playing C.J. Parker, running in slow motion along the beach, she became one of the most iconic images of the 90s. Baywatch turned into one of the most watched shows in television history, reaching audiences in over 100 countries. For a while, it felt like her face was everywhere, from magazine covers to television screens to billboards. At the height of her fame, Pamela wasn't just an actress. She was a cultural symbol. She represented a certain kind of 90s glamour, bold, playful, unapologetic. But with that level of fame came intense public scrutiny, something she was not fully prepared for. Her personal life quickly became just as talked about as her career. Her marriage to Motley Crue drummer Tommy Lee was fast, dramatic, and constantly followed by the media. They had 2 sons together, but the relationship was turbulent, and their divorce played out publicly. Then, in a moment that deeply affected her, a private tape between her and Tommy was stolen and leaked without her consent. It became one of the first major violations of celebrity privacy in the internet age, and it deeply shaped how the public saw her for years afterward. Many people forget that behind the glamorous image, Pamela was dealing with real pain. She has spoken openly about how that period affected her mental health and how it took years to reclaim her own story. But she didn't disappear. Instead, she kept working, kept adapting, and kept surprising people. She acted in shows like VIP, did voice work, appeared in films, and became known for her activism, especially in animal rights. She partnered with PETA and used her platform to speak out against fur farming and animal cruelty, something she has remained committed to for decades. Around this time, her health also became part of her public story. Pamela revealed that she had contracted hepatitis C, which she said came from sharing a tattoo needle with Tommy Lee years earlier. She underwent treatment and later confirmed she was cured, something she spoke about to raise awareness for others facing the same illness. As the 2000s rolled on, the entertainment industry began to shift, and so did Pamela. She appeared on reality television, did stints in Dancing with the Stars, and even took on Broadway, starring in Chicago, which surprised many critics who hadn't expected her to shine in live theater. Her personal life continued to make headlines too. She married and divorced multiple times over the years, including a widely discussed relationship with poker player Rick Salomon, and later a brief marriage to her bodyguard, which ended quickly. Each chapter added to public curiosity about who Pamela Anderson really was behind the headlines. Then, quietly, something began to shift. Pamela started stepping back from the spotlight. She spent more time at her family home in Ladysmith, the same small town where she grew up. She began gardening, cooking, and living a simpler life, far from the paparazzi chaos of Los Angeles and the constant tabloid attention of earlier decades. In 2023, she returned to public attention, but not in the way anyone expected. She released a memoir and a Netflix documentary called Pamela, A Love Story, where she told her own story in her own words for the first time. It wasn't scandal-driven or filtered through someone else's narrative. It was raw, honest, and deeply personal. Around the same time, she made a bold choice that surprised the world. She began appearing in public without makeup, first at Paris Fashion Week, then at red carpet events. For a woman whose image had been built so heavily around glamour, this felt like a quiet act of reclaiming herself. Then came another surprising turn. In 2023, Pamela starred in a Broadway revival of Chicago again, receiving genuine praise for her performance. Critics who once dismissed her as just a sex symbol were now acknowledging her as a serious performer with real range. So, where is Pamela Anderson today? She continues to live a relatively quiet life, splitting her time between projects she genuinely cares about and her home in Canada. She has spoken about no longer wanting to define herself through relationships or through the image the media created decades ago. Instead, she focuses on her sons, her activism, her love of nature, and creative projects that feel authentic to her. She has also continued acting, taking on roles that show a different side of her, more mature, more grounded, and far removed from the character that once defined her. In interviews, she often reflects on her journey with surprising peace, saying she no longer feels the need to prove anything to anyone. What makes Pamela Anderson's story so compelling isn't just her rise to fame. It's the way she survived the parts of fame that hurt her and came out the other side with a stronger sense of who she is. She went from being one of the most photographed women in the world to someone who chooses when and how she's seen. That shift from image to authenticity is what keeps people interested in her story even today. Her journey is a reminder that public image and personal truth are not always the same thing, and that reclaiming your own story can be more powerful than any headline ever was. If you enjoyed this look back at Pamela Anderson's incredible journey, give this video a like and subscribe for more stories like this one. Let us know in the comments which celebrity you'd like us to cover next.